All right, welcome back to another video. Today, I saw something recently where there was a bunch of people that went through their top 10 exercises. If they could only do those exercises for the rest of their life, what would they be? I thought, you know what, that'd make for a pretty cool video. So I'm gonna take you guys through the 10 exercises. If they were the only ones I could do for the rest of my life, what would they be and why? Let's get to it. So, first exercise for the mid to upper back is going to be a chest supported row. Now this prime machine is awesome, but you can do it on a lot of different machines, and you can decide how far apart you want your hands to be. Pull through, everything is nice, stable. It's just an amazing machine. You really can't go wrong with it. Now, if we're talking about the chest, this is the one where I'll probably have the most controversial take, to be honest, because these hammer strength machines, these ones that are like, they're supposed to be great because they're converging, and I hate them. I just hate them. I cannot explain it. Actually, I can't explain it, but that would take too long. But I really do not like them. So for me, if I had to choose, see that little machine over there? Everybody has access to a Smith machine. So if I had to choose just one chest exercise for the rest of my life, it would be an incline Smith machine. I know with all the crazy equipment that we have available to us, maybe if I had like a Panada or something like that, you can look that up online. It's absolutely insane. But if I had to choose just one based on availability and how good it is, the incline Smith machine, it's hard to beat. Now I bet you didn't see this coming. I do indeed have a calf raise as one of my mandatories. And that is simply because if you have no calves, it just looks funny. And I really struggled with my calves. When I didn't train them often, my calves, it looked bad. So if you want to have an overall aesthetic physique, I think having good sized calves relative to the rest of your physique is necessary. So I would choose a seated, straight leg toe press, but always focusing on a deep stretch, holding that deep stretch for 3, 4, 5 seconds before pushing up, because everything we've seen when it comes to the calves shows that they grow far more from that deep stretch than they do from the actual pressing motion. So if you're just standing on a flat ground and doing this, and you think that you're gonna grow some good calves with it, sorry, it's just not gonna happen. But now that we got the boring stuff out of the way, because nobody really likes talking about calves, let's talk about the quads. My number one exercise, and this is gonna go against a lot of other people, is the hack squat. I know everybody loves the pendulum, but I've tried it. I've tried to love it, and it is good. It is good. But the hack squat, in my opinion, just reigns supreme. I just love the stability it has, the path, everything just feels so perfectly placed on the quads. And if you're worried about the resistance profile and the fact that the pendulum allows you to have more of that swing so that it's less heavy in the bottom and gets heavier towards the top, then you can always ban the hack squat. But the hack squat is gonna be my number one for the quads. How many are we at right now? 3, 4? All right, and on to the next part. If you have big quads, you also have to have big hamstrings. You can't just have this lumpy mass out front and nothing in the back. So my favorite of all time is going to be the seated hamstring curl. Now, how you perform this is really going to be up to you. I know a lot of people are very particular about it, but for me, at least at the moment, the way I like to do it is I like to push myself back in here. It's just really nice and stable. I take it, I do this. If I do want to get a little bit of additional stretch, yes, maybe I will lean forward, keeping my back relatively upright so I'm not just rounding like this, relatively upright. If I want to get a little bit more length through the motion, either way, we're really splitting hairs here. So in the end, whichever way you prefer to do it, as long as you're able to push it, progressively overload it, you're gonna grow some pretty good hamstrings. Now, we're talking about the posterior, right? Talking about the posterior for the legs. If you're talking about that, we can't not talk about the butt. So this machine right here, I mean, there's no beating it. If you want to develop the biggest, thickest, juiciest glutes that you possibly can, you can't not talk about the hip thrust. And this machine right here is a booty builder. I'm not gonna lie, I ignore it more than I should, but if I needed to build the biggest glutes possible in the shortest amount of time, this is absolutely my go-to. Now, finishing off the legs, because we've talked about all the other things. Somebody is on it right now, so I can't exactly show you, but you guys all know what it is. It's the sus machine. and only the closing inwards portion. So I know a lot of people like to do the outwards and then the closing. The outwards just really isn't going to do all that much for your physique. So if you need to develop your legs and you're looking for the best exercise to do that, the sus machine pulling inwards for the adductors, absolutely amazing. Now, we never actually finished off the back, right? So that one's going to be, this is a tough one. I'm not going to lie. This is a tough one because there are two variations that I really love. If I had to pick one, okay, we're going to assume that you actually had access to something that was able to make you heavier in weight, right? So like maybe a weighted vest or something like that. If you had a weighted vest available to you, my absolute go-to for this would be the wide grip assisted pull-up. Now, I know it's going to be harder to progressively overload over time, but that is why if you had the vest, I would choose that. But let's say you didn't have it, guys, all right? If that was the case, then it would just be the lat pull down. You just good old standard lat pull down. I mean, it's very hard to beat. Fantastic for the lats. That's really all there is to say about it. Now, when we're talking about building the perfect physique and only having a certain amount of exercise, can't leave out lateral raises. So my number one for the side delts would be not this. I know people like this. It just doesn't seem to work very well for me. What I do instead is I get on the inside of this machine and I take one arm, get myself stable, this. For me, this is a much more comfortable motion and much easier to overload the side delt than taking and holding it out front. If you prefer holding out front, completely up to you, but if I had to choose for the rest of my life, it would just be the single arm variation of this machine. And no physique is complete without the triceps. I don't know if this is cheating or not, but my absolute favorite exercise for the tris is not just your regular old tricep extension, but it is, I don't even know if you can call it a mechanical drop set, but it is a format where you have 3 different positions. You take it and do the fully short position for the tris, hit through the mid position, and this all has to do with where the cable has the most resistance, right? So right here is where it's making a 90 degree, most resistance is through here, a little bit less as you get to the full, whereas when you're here, there's more resistance obviously here than there is as you get to here. And after you've toasted yourself in that sense, leaning over, getting the stripper pull variation, where you just pull through like this. And if I could only do one exercise for my triceps for the rest of my life, it would be that one. I mean, that has done more for my triceps than anything else I have done up to this point. Not that there isn't other good exercises, but this is my absolute favorite. And the last one, the quintessential thing that we have not talked about yet is going to be the chest fly. I'm just kidding. We actually don't have any other chest variations other than the Smith machine incline. And the simple fact of the matter is, people spend so much time worried about their chest because it's such a prominent feature, they don't realize they get 90% of their work out of one exercise, maybe 2 exercises. As long as you have a good stimulus that's going through the chest, getting it fully expanded and pressing outwards, you're gonna get almost all of the growth that you need. I'm not saying that you can't add in a little bit of variation here and there, but people really like to overcomplicate the chest and it really doesn't need all that much. Flies are just a nice cherry on top, but I could not include them if I only had 10 exercises to do the rest of my life. But the last one is going to be, of course, the biceps. Now this is just a phenomenal machine. I know not everybody will have access to a prime like this, but you can even take and make this a little bit more difficult in positions that make more sense for the leverages. So we know that the biceps respond very well to work that happens through this area right here. And what this machine allows you to do is it allows you to make it a little bit heavier through this portion of the motion and lighter as you get to the top, which makes sense for where the biceps have their best leverage, because where it has best leverage is probably also going to be the area where it experiences best growth. This is not referring to stretch-mediated hypertrophy, which I know is a very common topic right now. This is just referring to where the biceps actually have the best ability to produce force, and that tends to happen through this portion of the range. Once you get to here, it drops off a lot. So having the ability to make it a little bit tougher through this range and easier as you get to the top, absolutely perfect. But that doesn't mean that you can't get very good work out of any preacher machine. I just really like this prime because it allows you to play with those angles a little bit. And that will do it, guys. those are my top 10 exercises if I could only be 10 for the rest of my life. I'd like you to drop yours down below in the comments. Give a like, comment, share, subscribe, anything for the algorithm, and I will catch you guys next time. TNF out.